Some drew the faces of their victims from memory, others turned themselves into symbols, and some left behind drawings that feel strangely empty. In this video, we're not looking at crimes, we're looking at images, paintings and drawings created by serial killers, not as confessions or explanations, but as visual traces of how these individuals structured their inner world. Now let's take a closer look at them, not to explain violence, but to understand what these images quietly reveal about control, memory, and inner structure. Let's start with one of the most prolific serial killers in US history, Samuel Little. Samuel Little is considered one of the most prolific serial killers in US history. He confessed to murdering dozens of women over several decades, with authorities later confirming more than 90 victims. His crimes spanned multiple states, often going unnoticed for years due to the social invisibility of his victims. The killings took place across the US between 1970 and 2005. Investigators say he targeted marginalized and vulnerable women, and that some of their bodies went unidentified and deaths uninvestigated. While in prison, Little produced hundreds of drawings, most of them portraits of women's faces. He claimed these were women he had killed, drawn purely from memory, sometimes decades after the crimes. Investigators were later able to match several drawings to real, unidentified victims. Visually, these drawings are striking for what they don't contain. There is no violence depicted, no narrative, no background, just faces, often carefully rendered, with attention to hairstyles, facial structure, and expression. His memory of the killings was mostly precise, as he could give details about where they happened and what car he was driving. But he was unable to remember specific dates, which, investigators say, has caused further issues with identifying the victims. The drawings feel observational rather than expressive. They don't appear emotionally charged. Instead, they resemble a mental archive. Faces are isolated, stripped of context, frozen in a neutral state. The repetition is key, face after face after face, rendered with similar compositional choices. What these images suggest is not remorse or reflection, but fixation. The act of drawing seems less about remembering the person and more about preserving control over the memory. These are not portraits meant to humanize, they feel catalogued. In Little's drawings, memory exists without empathy. The images function almost mechanically, as if recalling faces was a skill, not an emotional burden. What makes them unsettling is precisely their emotional flatness. Let's continue with John Wayne Gacy. He murdered at least 33 young men and boys during the 1970s, making him one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. What distinguishes Gacy from many others is not only the number of victims, but the life he managed to maintain alongside his crimes. Gacy was socially active. He owned a construction business, volunteered in his community, and was known for entertaining children at public events. To the outside world, he appeared approachable, reliable, even generous. This carefully maintained public image played a crucial role in how he navigated daily life without immediate suspicion. This dual existence, the private offender and the public persona, is essential for understanding his artwork. While incarcerated, Gacy began painting extensively. Many of his paintings depict clowns, often variations of his Pogo the Clown character. These works are among the most widely recognized examples of art created by a serial killer and are still circulated today. In the most famous example of a painting by John Wayne Gacy, he depicts a killer clown. It is, as anyone familiar with the wretched man will know, a self-portrait. Visually, the paintings are strikingly controlled. The colors are vivid, the compositions clear, the figures well-defined. Faces are expressive, yet contained. There is nothing chaotic or accidental about these images. They feel deliberate, almost rehearsed. What's important is that these paintings are not abstract explorations of emotion. They are representational, theatrical, and symbolic. The clown becomes a recurring motif, not as something disturbing, but as something familiar, cheerful, and recognizable. In this context, the clown functions less as a disguise and more as a constructed identity. Gacy's art doesn't appear to question who he is. Instead, it reinforces a version of himself he wanted to project. The repetition of the clown imagery suggests fixation, but not confusion. Unlike other offenders whose art reveals fragmentation or inner collapse, Gacy's paintings feel stable. They present a role that is confidently performed, The images communicate control over appearance, over narrative, and over perception. There is also a notable absence in these works. Despite the weight of Gacy's crimes, the paintings contain no visible guilt, no fear, and no emotional rupture. The tone remains strangely upbeat, even celebratory. This emotional disconnect is what makes the images unsettling, not because they depict horror, but because they refuse to acknowledge it. Rather than offering insight into inner conflict, Gacy's art functions as self-curation. The paintings preserve a persona that existed alongside, and perhaps in opposition to, reality. Identity here is not explored, it is staged and maintained. Gacy's paintings are unsettling because they are controlled. They present a clear role, a stable image, a carefully maintained identity. But not every offender uses images to perform or preserve a persona. Some drawings don't attempt to manage perception at all. Instead of reinforcing identity, they reveal its collapse, or its absence. This shift becomes especially clear when we move from John Wayne Gacy to Henry Lee Lucas. Henry Lee Lucas is associated with one of the most chaotic and contradictory criminal narratives in modern American history. He confessed to hundreds of murders across multiple states, many of which were later proven impossible or unsubstantiated. Unlike Gacy or Little, Lucas's story was never coherent, and neither was his sense of self. This instability carries directly into his drawings. The artworks attributed to Lucas are visually simple, sometimes crude, and notably inconsistent. Figures are often poorly defined, proportions are off, details appear arbitrary rather than intentional. There is no recurring symbol, no repeated motif, no visual language that develops over time. Unlike Little's obsessive focus on faces or Gacy's repeated clown imagery, Lucas's drawings don't seem to return to anything. Each image stands alone, disconnected from the next. What's striking is the lack of refinement. These drawings don't appear worked on or revisited. They feel immediate, almost disposable. Lines are hesitant or careless. Forms don't suggest control or fixation, but rather a lack of internal organization. Symbolically, the images offer very little, and that absence becomes the key feature. Where other offenders use art to structure memory or identity, Lucas's drawings suggest a mind without a stable internal framework. There is no clear attempt to express emotion, no effort to shape meaning, and no indication of reflection. The images feel unfinished, not just technically but conceptually. This doesn't make them less disturbing, it makes them disturbing in a different way. What we see here isn't performance or fixation, but fragmentation. The drawings don't tell a story, they don't defend an identity, they don't even seem to preserve memory. Instead, they reflect disconnection from self, from narrative, and from consequence. In Lucas's case, the absence of structure is the structure. The images don't confront violence, but they also don't conceal it. They simply fail to organize it into anything meaningful, and that emptiness may be the most unsettling quality of all. Taken together, these images show that even within extreme violence, inner worlds can look radically different. Some drawings preserve memory without empathy, others construct identity through performance, and some reveal little more than absence and fragmentation. What makes these images disturbing isn't what they depict, but what they quietly expose about control, structure, and perception. Not explanations, not justifications, but visual traces of how different minds organized, or failed to organize, their inner world. But what do you think about these paintings? Write your opinion in the comments down below, and if you are interested in more analyses of disturbing paintings, check out my latest video right here, where we are going to analyze disturbing paintings made by mentally ill people. And believe me, the context of these paintings is way deeper than you might think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you there.